no place like the Q.
Coming across your airwaves, dance with me. It's an intersection all day. And it's gonna bring you the weekly.
Family, is the news overwhelming? Is it just too much? Well, I get you, and I got you.
Yeah.
Family, this is your favorite queer radio personality, Anna Deshawn, and this is Queer News, your favorite weekly news pod where race and sexuality meet politics, culture, and entertainment. This is your number one stop for queer news done right, only on E3 Radio.
Hello, Queer News family. My name is Mayana Janet, and I am an associate producer of the Queer News podcast. Nice to talk to y'all. Anna asked me something that I really enjoy doing outside of working on the podcast. And that's tough because there's a lot of things I like to do. I love to journal. I love reading. I have so many books to read, but that is definitely something I will do is like find a park and go read. I love puzzles. I love movies. I do a lot of things. Yeah, I just really I like time to myself. I do. And those hobbies are all kind of ways for me to take a breather from the world and really just relax. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm so glad y'all got to meet Mayana today. When Mayana joined the team, it made a world of difference for me, okay? She's thinking about the stories with me. She's writing my scripts. And she is such a key part to helping to sustain this podcast and ensuring we remain consistent week after week. I don't got to do it all anymore. Family, I want y'all to know that's okay with me. This is what growth looks like. And I'm excited for you all to meet the rest of the team. They are really shy, so I've got to ask a lot for them to send me a voicemail, but I'm committed. Okay? Because I want y'all to know it's not just me. I couldn't be this consistent by myself. And you all who've been with the show for a long time know I'd miss a week from time to time, but we've been locked in. And I really couldn't do this work as well as I do it without them. So, have you joined the Substack yet? I mean, why not? It's our weekly newsletter, but it also houses our lists, guides, and special episodes. I'm writing and sharing more, and that feels good. Queer News is more than just a podcast now. It feels like we're really building a community of folks who care about our humanity. And you already know, joining the QCrew for as low as $5 a month really does help us sustain this work. The website is queernewspod.substack.com. You know it's in the show notes, but I'm going to tell you anyway. queernewspod.substack.com. Join the movement. QCrew, like I continue to say, y'all are the movement. You are actively helping to sustain this work. I can never, ever, ever say thank you enough. Maybe I can make y'all a song. But literally, I cannot say thank you enough for being part of the QCrew, the monthly recurring subscriptions, that hit the account, help me to pay the team monthly. So if you believe in the work we do, if you believe LGBTQ stories need to be amplified, if you love and respect how I report on the news and tell our stories, join the QCrew. Come on now, you got $5. I know you do. You spent it. You spent it at the Starbucks. You spent it at the Dunkin'. You did. I know you did. You spent it at the Jamba Juice. You got you a smoothie. You went to Smoothie King. What? You got you some fries. Because everything is high. Okay? $5. I'm telling you right now, it goes a long way for us. A link to join the QCrew is in the show notes. And now for our top queer news stories today. Trans and non-binary politicians are fighting back and on the precipice of making history. In politics, a new ruling says federal funds for gender-affirming care is absolutely prohibited. And the Trump administration is being sued again. And we love to see it, because when we sue him, we win. In culture and entertainment, WNBA security pulls fans for pro and anti-trans shirts. Co-owner of the Atlanta lesbian bar My Sister's Room was arrested over the weekend, and the LGBTQ plus community now makes up 12% of the population. Ooh, we ain't going nowhere. Let's get into it. In our top story this week, queer politicians are fighting back in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Georgia. They are on the precipice of making queer history this November. That's right. Jalen Scott, Joanna Whaley, and Bentley Hudgens have the potential to do something historic. Jalen and Joanna could become the first trans women elected to their respective state legislatures of Washington and Michigan, while Bentley could become the first openly non-binary member of Georgia's state legislature. In Washington, Jalen Scott is on track to become the first Black trans woman in the country to be elected to a state legislature. She's running for Washington's 37th legislative district, and her opponent, Evan McCorkle, is a college student who's running as an independent candidate. Scott wrote about her motivation to run on her website saying, quote, "As a Black trans woman, I face many of the same challenges other QTB, BIPOC, and marginalized communities face. Unstable housing, barriers to employment, addiction, and ideologically motivated violence and threats to our civil liberties. Guided by my faith and informed by my lived experiences, I have dedicated my life to building a community where all can live in freedom, dignity, and belonging." End quote. Scott is endorsed by many familiar faces such as Bernie Sanders, the LGBTQ plus Victory Fund, and Congresswoman out of Washington State, Pramila Jayapal. Now, let's go over to Michigan, where Joanna Whaley won against her opponent, Frank Liberati, in the August primary, which made her the official Democratic nominee for Michigan's second House district. Now, let me tell you how Frank tried to win, though. Okay, he contested Joanna's eligibility to run in the primary with the argument that her name change documents were invalid. Politics will show you just how low folks will go, okay? Because while the validity of the documents were being investigated, she was temporarily kicked off the ballot. Yeah, so the effort worked temporarily. She was eventually approved to run for Michigan's second House district and was reinstated on the ballot, where she won 56% of the vote, despite his worst efforts. Now, her opponent in November is Republican nominee Ronald Kokinda, but the odds look in Whaley's favor due to the Democratic nature of the district. Joanna Whaley is campaigning on issues such as economic fairness, healthcare accessibility, public safety, and civil liberties. She has been endorsed by organizations such as the Detroit Free Press, the LGBTQ plus Victory Fund, and Planned Parenthood of Michigan. We also got to show a lot of love to Bentley Hudgens in Georgia, who won their Democratic primary for Georgia's House of Representatives in the 90th district. After their win, Bentley commented, quote, "To me, it shows that the voters are tired of the hate and they just care about somebody's qualifications. But as a representative, I view the win, historic or not, as a starting point. And it's up to me to prove to the people of my House district that good government can happen and that we can build a democracy that is worth fighting for." Should they win in November, they'll be the first openly non-binary member of Georgia's state legislature. Family, let me tell you, these midterms, November, is shaping up to be a historic election season. And we're going to do everything we can to keep you informed here on Queer News. And we're doing a collab with a podcast called Beyond Voting. It's based here in Chicago because we want to get folks here energized and informed and ready to go vote in November. So stay close to that, okay? Because it's going to be called Chicago. Are you voting? Mm-hmm. Next in politics, there has been another ruling. And you might be listening and wondering, Anna, what new ruling now? With frustration and annoyance, And I want you to know, these are my sentiments exactly. Now, this new ruling is specifically coming from the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services. That's right. This ruling will prohibit the use of federal funds like Medicaid, Medicare, and CHIP. CHIP stands for Children's Health Insurance Program funds from covering certain forms of gender-affirming care for trans youth. This will go into effect on October 13th of this year, and youth currently accessing gender-affirming care will have a 6-month grace period before the loss of federal funding. And in this context, youth is folks under the age of 19. If I can just grab a soapbox for a minute, just for a minute, we can find all the vile words to describe Trump and his administration, and I'm with you, okay? But one thing cannot be denied. Everything that they wrote about going after our trans siblings in that Project 2025 book, they have followed to a T. He ain't kept many of his other promises, okay? Does America feel great yet? Right, exactly. So he ain't been able to do much else. He's getting his friends to be richer. That wasn't a campaign promise, but it was sure enough on his mind, okay? Can he get himself richer? He's been able to do all those things. But what he's been able to do to our trans siblings and their rights, politically, legislatively, culturally, has never been seen before. It is evil personified on a whole new level. We win a court case, they come back with another way. We win another case, they come back with another way. And this right here in this moment is another way. And all is not lost. Plans are being made across the nation for amendments to the new ruling. However, at this current point in time, legislative action is necessary to get these funds resumed. On a state level, states can allocate funds to supporting those seeking gender-affirming care, but there's no guarantee that individual states can or will move those funds. The gender-affirming care that's specifically affected by this new ruling includes puberty blockers, hormone therapy, and surgery. But federal funds can be used for mental health care services. That's nice, right? Of course it is. I saw this posted by Chicago-based nonprofit Chicago Therapy Collective, and they're asking people to speak out against attacks on trans youth and access to their care, push back against misinformation and attacks on access to medically necessary care, and support trans youth and their right to be themselves. I've reached out to Chicago Therapy Collective to gather more information to see how this will impact them and the work that they do. And we're just going to keep following, right? These stories, these rulings, and these developments, because it's a seesaw. It's been a seesaw, right? They make a ruling like this that is completely unconstitutional, and then our entities come back and fight and we win. And then they figure out another way. Yes, this is what we've been living through. This is why it's hard to keep up. This is hard to know what's happening moment to moment, week to week. Let me tell you, as I grab my soapbox for a second, not a whole minute, just a couple seconds, okay? The Trump administration has kept their promises as it pertains to attacking our trans siblings and trying to erase them from public life. They have followed that Project 2025 playbook to a T. He ain't kept many of his other campaign promises. I mean, does America feel great to you? Not to me. But as it pertains to queer folks, and particularly our trans siblings, we have never seen such a coordinated attack ever in our lives. It infuriates me. It breaks my heart because trans folks don't bother nobody. Because honestly, all they want to do is be able to live their lives. And people's ignorance, compounded by their money and propaganda, has led us to this moment in time. Oof. And for our last political story today, guess who's being sued again? That's right, the Trump administration. Just like I just talked about. They do something awful and unconstitutional, and then we sue. And every time we sue, you know what? I love to see it. because we got to keep fighting. We must keep fighting. We cannot stop fighting. That's when fascism wins, is when we stop fighting. We can get tired and then someone else has to pick it up, right? And then when they get tired, someone else has to pick it up. But we can never just let it fall. Okay, off my soapbox again. I'm going to read my script. Mayana, I promise. This time, the U.S. Office of Personnel Management is being sued by 5 federal workers because health care coverage was revoked for transgender employees, retirees, and their families. The plaintiffs argue that this is a violation of Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, which prohibits places of work from discriminating against race, religion, or in this case, sex. The U.S. Office of Personnel Management crafted 2 policies to comply with Trump's executive order. Now, this directive, this policy, it has a strange name, so just hold tight, okay? It's called Carrier Letter 2025-01B. Okay, now this directive notified staff that their health care would no longer cover, quote, chemical and surgical, end quote, changes to one's sex should they use any of the 2 federal health care plans provided to them. There was an exception for people who were already receiving treatment, okay? And they later sent another letter removing all short-term exceptions to the new policy, which means all exceptions will end in 2027. The plaintiffs are seeking an end to the Carrier Letter 2025-01B policy, as well as reimbursements to employees who've had to pay for procedures out of pocket. They are also seeking to reinstate healthcare coverage to employees whose coverage was revoked as a result of the U.S. Office of Personnel Management's new policies. The plaintiffs are being represented by the Human Rights Campaign Foundation alongside a number of law firms. And I can't say this enough. It's so critical that we can continue to support organizations like Human Rights Campaign Foundation and Lambda Legal and so many others that are fighting on our behalf in these courtrooms day and night. The National Center for LGBTQ Rights. I mean, we need them in the courtroom because the Trump administration ain't gonna stop, and neither can we. This feels like a time to take a break, huh? Take some deep breaths. Let's do that, okay? When we get back, we're gonna talk some sports, some culture, and some entertainment. It's Purple Tie time. That's right. Our 12th annual Purple Tie Affair concert and silent auction is taking place Saturday, October the 3rd from 6 to 9 p.m. at Sidetrack here in Chicago, Illinois. I would love to see you there. We're going to be raising money for our critical work reporting on queer news. At a time when queer experiences are being dangerously misrepresented, Queer News has emerged as a critical source for delivering accurate, consistent, and relevant news you can use. So come out, party with us, help us raise the money we need to sustain. Visit e3radio.fm. That's e3radio.fm and get your tickets today. Like right now. Like, go click the link right now. Do you have a local news story not getting enough amplification? A queer organization other folks should know? A song coming out? Send us a voicemail to our Queer News tip line so you can get all the amplification you need. Info on how to submit is in the show notes. Welcome back to the show, family. Now, let's get into some sports, some culture, and some entertainment. In sports, did you all hear about what happened in the WNBA at the Atlanta Dream versus Indiana Fever game? Not this weekend, but the last weekend? Yeah, if you hadn't heard about it, let me tell you, it got heated in the stands as guests were asked to remove their shirts by security. I wish I was making this up. Reportedly, 3 fans were asked to cover up and or remove shirts with messages that contained both pro and anti-trans language. In response to the incident, the WNBA wrote, quote, "The WNBA is aware of interactions at Sunday night's game in Atlanta in which fans were asked by league security to cover their shirts. This should not have happened." A representative from the Atlanta Dream also commented on the actions taken by the WNBA's security during Sunday's game, saying that, quote, "The Atlanta Dream believes in creating a safe and inclusive environment for everyone. Unfortunately, at last night's game, WNBA security took actions that fell short of that standard. At no point was Dream personnel involved in the decisions made by WNBA security," end quote. These past few weeks have been wild and rocky for the WNBA in their actions and honestly lack thereof in response to the increased aggression from fans who are absolutely transphobic. And some of these quote unquote fans are part of the LGBTQ plus community themselves. Not sure if you saw my video where I reported on a transphobe who was at our game here in Chicago, had a sign that said "Lesbians for Sophie." And I'm wondering, which lesbians are standing alongside of Sophie Cunningham, which is then backed by a MAGA right-wing anti-trans hate train, as our friends over at Translash would say. Because I'm still trying to wrap my head around being queer and transphobic. From protests outside the games to disgusting fan behavior inside the arenas, the conversations around the inclusion of trans athletes in the WNBA aren't going away, and that's fine. We can talk about it all day, but child, it ain't a problem. It's not a problem. In 30 years, there's been one trans athlete in the WNBA. One in 30 years. There's less than 10 currently competing in the NCAA. We have real problems to address in this country. And let me just tell y'all something. Trans athletes are not one of them. We're going to keep following the stories in the W because it is important to document. I mean, Inez Cantor was just kicked out of a Chicago Sky game last night, who has been trolling the W with his anti-trans rhetoric. The W has been a safe harbor for queer folks and queer women in particular. And now we got to fight to keep it that way. In Atlanta, co-owner of the lesbian bar, My Sister's Room, MSR for short, Jen Chase Daniels was arrested over the weekend, allegedly due to noise complaints. And so here's what we know so far. A video of Jen Chase's arrest was uploaded to the My Sister's Room Instagram Saturday night. In the video, you can hear the co-owner tell officers that the building was not at capacity and that the event going on in the bar that night was not 18 and over, as she asked the person recording to call her wife shortly before being escorted to the back of a police car. The event being held that night was a drag burlesque show. Jen Chase wrote, quote, "I was asked to show my ID. The officer already knew who I was, and I questioned why I needed to provide identification when we had done nothing wrong. I was willing to show the video footage demonstrating that the noise was not coming from MSR. Instead, I was arrested." Jen Chase spent the next 10 hours at Grady Memorial Hospital, where she was unable to notify her family of her whereabouts. Jen Chase's wife and co-owner of MSR, Jamie, wrote on her Facebook account. She describes the hours where they couldn't locate Jen Chase. She says, "I was in Tennessee with my mom in the emergency room while my wife was arrested and taken to Grady Hospital instead of jail, where we could have bonded her out. She was kept handcuffed there for 10 hours. She asked officers to tell me where she was. They refused, even though this officer has our cell phone numbers from previous interactions with him." She goes on to say, "Meanwhile, myself, our family, friends, and employees searched all night, calling both the jail and Grady over and over again. We were repeatedly told she wasn't at either place or they would have her on record and that the arresting officer would be with her. But he went back to Crescent Avenue, so he wasn't with her. He had left her there with another officer for 10 hours. No one could tell us where she was. Upon her release from the hospital, she was transferred to jail. A second video was uploaded the same night documenting noise coming from a bar next to MSR after hours. Jen Chase wrote in the caption of that post, "I've spent the last 24 hours taking everything in and decompressing with our staff. After speaking with legal counsel, I want to share some context and then step back from making any further public comments about the situation. MSR will continue moving forward. We will continue to follow the City of Atlanta's ordinances and comply with the rules and instructions put in place." Jen Chase went on to say, quote, "For some context, the city no longer uses decibel readers for this particular ordinance. About a week and a half ago, I facilitated a meeting on Crescent Avenue with the captain, the lieutenant, and the bars and restaurants along the street. We physically marked the 100-foot area so everyone understood exactly where that boundary was and what was required of us after midnight. We knew where our 100-foot marker was, and we have been following those requirements very carefully, especially on Fridays and Saturdays." The Atlanta PD responding officer, Jaden Joseph, wrote in his statement that, quote, "I would like to note for the record, I did not hear or witness any loud music coming from either establishment. However, I did observe MSR with their garage door open while several patrons were inside projecting their voices loudly," end quote. So now the question is, how does an observation turn into an arrest instead of a conversation? This seems like an extreme escalation that simply didn't need to happen. Since the incident, MSR hasn't slowed down in hosting events where everyone is welcome. So if you're in Atlanta, go and support this bar, and we're gonna follow the story and see what happens and see what unfolds now that the lawyers are involved. Let me tell y'all something. I found a lot of soapboxes this episode, but let me pick up another one. Policing and community policing are two different things. And in this moment, reporting on this story, that officer admits the music wasn't loud. But yet, because the owner, who admittedly did nothing wrong, was asked for ID, because she refused, he decided to arrest her, sit her in a hospital for 10 hours, and then sit her in a jail for another 12? You can't make that make sense to me. You just can't. And for our last story today in culture and entertainment, cheers, queers. We now make up 12% of the adult population in the United States, according to the Human Rights Campaign Foundation, who analyzed the U.S. Census and found that there are approximately 26.5 million LGBTQ plus adults in the United States, which totals up to 12% of the recorded population from the years 2021 through 2024. Now, the data was collected from that specific time period because shortly after the Trump administration had removed sexuality and gender metrics from a majority of federal studies. Now, get this, of the 26.5 million, 53% of those adults fell between the age ranges of 18 and 34. Now, this 12% smashes the record of 9% reported in a survey conducted by Gallup last year. Researchers speculate that while a general increase in LGBTQ plus adults is possible, they also believe that more and more adults are comfortable openly identifying as a member of the LGBTQ plus community. Amongst the LGBTQ plus umbrella, bisexuals, are still leading the way, representing 7% of that percentage. A statement accompanying the data from the Human Rights Campaign Foundation read, quote, LGBTQ plus Americans are everywhere. There are 25 million of us across the country, and we now have critical mass in almost every state in the nation. We're not a niche constituency, and no campaign, brand, or employer can afford to treat us like one. That's right, Because ask Target what pulling their DEI initiatives did to their business. Do y'all know the numbers? It cost them 12 to 20 billion reduction in market capitalization, alongside nearly $1 billion in quarterly sales, like consecutive quarterly sales, declining in revenue. Hate is bad business, period. It's time for Anna's Got a Word, because Anna's always got a word, and this is my birthday week, family. Sunday, August 30th, I will be 43 years old, and bless all of you who think I'm in my early 30s. God bless you, okay? And your ministry, I received that, and I received good genes, okay? And drinking a lot of water. And this year has been one of fortitude. It's been tough. It's been tough professionally. It's been tough personally. And this has been about persistence and just a bullish attitude that I've always been built for more. Always been built for more. And so if you feeling that same way, if you feel like this has been one hell of a year, I just want you to remember that you've always built for more. Like, you've got more in you. That this year, 2026 is not going to take you out, okay? It's not going to take me out. It's not going to take you out. We're going to be okay. And so I'm remaining persistent. I am thinking about expansion. I'm thinking about pivots. I'm thinking about collaborations. I'm thinking about what it means to do this work today. Not what it meant to do it 5 years ago when we started this podcast, but what it means to do this work today, and how we sustain this work today. And that is what is giving me hope. That's what's keeping me, showing up for myself and showing up for this podcast. So here's to 43. We'll sing happy birthday next week, okay? I feel like it's closer to my actual birthday. So until then, peace. If you've enjoyed what you heard, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is a team effort, edited by Ryan Woodhall of Public Sound, script written by Mayana Janet, newsletter and socials by Laren, hosted and produced by me, Anna Deshawn. Queer News is brought to you by E3 Radio and distributed on The Cube. We are Queer News done right.